Okay, so this video is going to talk about some of the operations with functions. We're just going to be adding, subtracting, and multiplying functions together. Division has a few other things that we have to look at, and then we have some other things that we can do with functions later. But first of all, we have to remember that functions are rules and equivalences. They're not equations to be solved. We can evaluate and simplify functions, and we do all of our work on the right side of the equal sign. So when we are simplifying or doing operations with them, we're really thinking about, okay, what does this really mean? And then we're going to put all of our work on the right. The left side says what we're doing. So we've got some general steps that we can do with this, if I can get my pen going. So our steps are, let's put it right here, steps. Just to reiterate that we're doing steps. Step one is we're going to expand or break down to our base or our given functions. And really what we're going to do is you're going to see the main rules, the main ideas that we have. So if you want, you can copy the main ideas. Format. Okay, so if we look at the main idea, if we have f plus g, that's telling me I'm going to be adding these two functions. I'm going to keep that variable x, and that just means I have f of x plus g of x. So my base functions that I have are the f of x and the g of x, and this is just how I would say, okay, take those two functions, add them. So the first thing I would do is rewrite it, expand it out as f of x plus g of x, because those extra parentheses kind of add to confusions. Step two, I could put different colors, but I'm just going to keep it in blue. We're going to replace each function. If I can spell. I got ahead of myself. With the right side, the right side equivalence. Now, this is kind of optional, but I usually say use parentheses or brackets. Sometimes I'll use the square ones just so that I remember that it's like there could be parentheses in my equation as well. And it gets a little bit less confusing if I use a different symbol for my grouping symbols. And then the last thing that you're going to do, and the last step could be quite a few steps, is you're going to simplify using the order of operations. And just remember, it's the order of operations. Okay, so we do have some examples. I do recommend writing down those main ideas, following along with this. This might be something you put on your note card, because functions are those equivalences and not equations. They tend to trip us up until we get really familiar with the fact that this is just a rule. We're just simplifying that right-hand side until we get something. We could get a number if we plugged in a number, but till we get something that looks less messy. All right, so we still have this, the functions. So I have f of x equals, and the right equivalence is 3x plus 2. G of x is going to be 5x, and h of x is equivalent to 2x squared minus x minus 6. And then we have a whole bunch of things that we're going to be doing. Order matters in a lot of cases. We're not going to do all of them. The ones that we don't do, I do request that you do them yourself before you check the answer key that will also get uploaded, and see how you do. All right, so I'm going to skip the f plus g of x. I could start it out. We'll write it out the beginning part, but we're not going to actually solve it. You guys are going to finish that yourself. This would be, keep things in order, f of x plus g of x. All right. I'm going to jump right in and start with that g of x minus f of x, because that minus sign can cause some problems. This will become g of x minus f of x. All right. And then I know the first step says I've expanded it. So I now have my base functions, which are the g of x and the f of x, which I have up there. And then my g of x, I know its right side equivalent is 5x. So I'm going to put the 5x for the g of x. You can keep it in parentheses. I kind of recommend that. In fact, I'm going to keep it in those brackets, those square ones. Okay. Especially with subtraction, I want to make sure that I subtract all of the next functions. So I really do want to use those parentheses or brackets. And f of x, I've got my minus sign from what it's telling me I want to do. My f of x is going to be replaced with that equivalence, which is that 3x plus 2. So I'm going to do a brackets, 3x plus 2. And now this is something I can do. I can simplify this. I can get rid of those brackets because order of operations tells me that's what I have to do first. I change colors a little bit. So this set of parentheses, this set of brackets has nothing in front of it or attached to it that I have to multiply or do anything with. So I'm just going to say, oh, I didn't really need those. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Now, this negative means everything that follows has to change sign, has to be the opposite, or I can think of distributing a -1 to everything in there. It is your choice of what you want to do it. I like to think of negatives, but just changing all the signs. However, that negative times -1 can help, especially if there's a coefficient already in front of that. So -1 times 3x is going to be -3x. And -1 times 2 is -2. Now I still have like terms here. There's a little bit more I can do with this. So this is going to be 5x minus 3x is 2x, and I still have that -2. So I know g minus f of x is going to equal that 2x minus 2. So that is all I can do. I haven't solved it, but I have simplified it. So a lot of times we will slip up and say, oh, I've solved my function operations. No, I really just simplified it, but I have a solution of what it looks like. So it's just a little bit of semantics, but just remember, functions are not equations. You're not solving them, you're simplifying them and finding what they're equivalent to. So we're going to do f times g of x. This would be, I'm going to do it in red, f of x. Oop, nope, that's not red. All right, so we're going to do it in red. I just have to make sure I'm patient enough to get red to show up. All right, so f of x times g of x. And you don't have to put that times mark. I'm just putting it there to be making sure that it's there. Now, f of x, the right-hand equivalence is 3x plus 2. The g of x is 5x. All right, so there's that multiplication in between them. This is the same thing as 3x plus 2. It could have been in parentheses times 5x. So this 5x is going to get distributed to everything in the first set of brackets. So 5x times 3x is 15x squared, and 5x times positive 2 is plus 10x. Now these both have x's, however they're not like terms because the exponents don't match. So that is all I can do with this one. So I have f times g of x equals 5x squared plus 10x. Okay, so just keep in mind, all you're doing is replacing and simplifying as much as you can. Working with numbers, so I think this will be the last one we're going to look at. So f minus h of 4. Yet again, there's a little bit to do with it. We want to first start by rewriting it, expanding it so I can see my base functions. So this is going to be f of 4 minus h of 4. And that I wrote an x, not a 4. Make sure that whatever's in the parentheses stays the same thing. So this is a 4. Now, you can think of this as a few different ways. You can add an extra step. If you want to think about it, you can say, oh, I'm not sure I feel confident plugging in whatever they're telling me right away. So I really could have started with that f of x minus h of x. So there are a couple different ways to do it. We're going to start with the shortcut way, and then I'm going to show you, if that is a little confusing, how you can do it taking one extra step. So with f of 4, that means I'm going up to the f equation. I'm replacing all of it. So this is where I use my brackets. So f of 4 starts with a 3. Instead of an x, I'm going to be replacing it with that 4. So I have a 3. I'm going to do my parentheses 4 because I'm replacing it, and then plus 2. This is the end of my f of 4, so I'm going to put my brackets. I have a minus sign from my equation, so I'm going to put my minus sign. And then I'm going to go look at my h, start my next brackets because this is going to be my h function. H, and every time I see the h, I'm going to put a 4 in for the x, which is right here. So I see a 2. I have an x squared, so this is going to become 4 squared. And then I have a minus, and then an x is going to become a 4, and a minus, and that's just a 6. And then I'm done with my brackets. Okay, so it's a longer problem. I can simplify from here. I just have the, I'm going to work my way outside to these brackets. So 3 times 4 is 12. So this is just, I'm going to keep the square ones. 12 plus 2 minus, simplifying this, I'm going to do the steps in order of operations, but I'm going to write things a little bit down because I'm kind of short on space. Not terribly short. I'm not terribly short on space, but a little bit. So I'd have to do order of operations. 4 squared is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So that is 32 minus 4 minus 6. So my first bracket is 12 plus 2 is 14. And then I have minus, and then this is all numbers, so I don't have to distribute that negative. I can just keep it as a negative. So 32 minus 4 is 28. Minus 6 is 22. So 14 minus 22. And that was the same thing as 22 minus 4, keep it negative. So that is 8, and it's a negative 8. All right, so if that's doing a little bit too much at a time, you can do things first by thinking, okay, I have f minus h. So I can think, okay, f of x minus h of x would give me that 3x plus 2, bracket it, minus h of x is 2x squared minus x minus 6. So that would be, this set of brackets has nothing attached to it, so it would be 3x plus 2 minus, changing all the signs, minus 2x squared plus x plus 6. I didn't need those brackets. And then I can combine like terms, put things in order if I want. So this is going to be a negative 2x squared. I have a 3x and a 1x, so this is plus 4x. And 2 plus 6 is 8, so plus 8. And now I can think of, okay, I want to put that 4 in, so this would now be f of 4 minus h of 4, because this was just the x's. So now I have negative 2 times 4 squared plus 4 times 4 plus 8 equals 4 squared. 16 times negative 2 is negative 32 plus 16 plus 8. Negative 32 plus 16 is negative 16. Plus 8 is going to give me just the negative 8. So I get the same answer both ways. It's a matter of which way makes more sense for you. The plugging in sometimes makes it a little bit less because you're working with numbers, as long as they just give you a number and not a variable to plug in. So we're going to keep this a little bit on the shorter side. So you have a couple of them to do yourself. Check on your answer key. So we started this one, but didn't finish it. So you get to finish the f plus g of x. And then you have h plus g of -2. And then you get to do h times f of x. So it's going to be a little bit more with the h times f of x because you're going to have to FOIL and distribute. There will be a video on distributing with multiplying binomials and trinomials, but see what you can do with that. Look and see if the answers are when the answers are up, and I will write down all of my steps with the answers and show you a couple different ways to multiply. So it'll take up a little bit of space. Remember to ask questions and keep up the good work.